Good morning, folks. Thanks for joining me this Wednesday. Before we begin, make sure you have your set of dumbbells. Other than that, that's all we'll need. Let's go ahead and get started with some backward lunges here. You can place your hands on your hips. Perfectly fine. We will be bringing the arms up in just a moment, but bend that back knee, trying to stay nice and upright as you get started with your lunges here. All right, let's go ahead and bring those arms up. Keep them nice and straight. Try to bring them just right up along the sides of the face, kind of by the ears, as you step back into that lunge. Straighten the elbow, hold the abs in, squeeze your glutes. You know the cues, just keep thinking about them. Push your way through the heel of that front foot. Keep straightening your elbows. Try to feel the back of the shoulders stretch as your arms open. See if you can feel those muscles stretch as those straight arms flex back. Let's do one more here. Let's go ahead nice and wide into a squat. Do some reverse arm circles. Pull the abs way in. Tuck the hips under. Keep those straight arms as they swing around. Try to keep your shoulders facing forward as well. So I don't want to see too much rotation happening through the torso. That way you're really forcing those upper back muscles to do the contracting as they pull the arms open. Not so much on transverse rotators of the spine to pull the arms open. So again, shoulders just nice and forward here. Let's do one more on each side. Line up with some butt kicks. Those legs probably won't get flushed out after holding that for 20 or so seconds. Heels up, way up. Just stay nice and light on those feet. We'll do a couple more here. And then go back to those lunges. We'll do shoulder extension with the lunges. So start with your arms up nice and high. As you step back, the arms come to the sides. Squeeze your shoulder blades together. Make sure your palms are facing forward the entire time. So there will be that slight rotation occurring through the shoulder joint so that the palms face forward when they are at the top, but also facing forward at the bottom. So you squeeze again those shoulder blades nice and tight together, particularly when you get to the back of this position here. Really focus on that squeeze shoulder blades. That just opens up the front shoulder muscles, chest muscles. Really quite good. That's good. Just keep bringing those arms back. Again, squeezing the shoulder blades. Try to get rid of the elbow bend at the top. Let's do one more here. We're going to hold a squat again, but this time shoulder flexion. So just up and down. Keep those arms nice and straight. Try not to arch your low back as your arms come up here. You notice your hips might want to swing forward too as the arms flex way up. Likewise, that head might want to come forward as well as the arms flex up. Try to keep your hips static. Try to keep your head static. Spine static. It's just the shoulder joint pulling and flexing open. Let's do one more here and we'll take it to some butt kicks. You got it. Butt kicks. Once again, that probably feels pretty good. Flush that out. We'll hold here for about another 10 seconds. All right, some curtsy lunges. Once again, you can put your hands on your hips. Let's try to get a little internal rotation occurring through that front femur joint. So do twist into that lead leg and try to keep those hips nice and level here. We are trying to release the back of the hip on this one, or at least warm up those muscles for what's to come. And just keep staying nice and upright here. And your range of motion can be kind of shallow on this. You don't have to be in full range if you start to cant all over the place. Just try to stay nice and square. Focus on that good form. I generally demonstrate with pretty good range of motion or a full range of motion. So that way you can kind of see how it should look through the full range. You can always stop shy in whatever range of motion you see me demonstrating, just so it looks somewhat like the way I'm doing it, even though it might be not quite as low or far. A couple more here, let's do two more. And then one more quick round of butt kicks here. Yeah, a lot of hamstrings in this warm-up, but we're actually going to be working a lot of the hips, hamstrings today. I think kind of an emphasis. So let's just get those hamstrings. Good, ready to go. We got about 5 more seconds here and then we'll start. All right, on our backs. In a supine position, start yourself in a dead bug position. We're just doing knee extension here. So arms up, legs, start your shins in that parallel position, keep your shoulders down, and then just extend the knees. You're not holding on any dumbbells. You'll notice my arms are straight, my wrists are straight, elbows are straight, etc. And I'm just focusing on that knee extension. So what I'm trying to do right now is tighten the front of the thigh, pull the abs in. So I'm trying to strengthen, think of contracting the front of the body, the front of the hips, the upper inner thighs, but then releasing those opposite muscles, the back of the legs, the back of the hips, the low back, etc. So flex the feet nice and hard. Hold on your kneecaps to tighten the quadricep muscles. That'll further release the hamstrings. Feel maybe a little stretch to the back of the legs. It is really important that you feel the back of the hips stay on the mat. So as you go into knee extension, I've heard it described before where the butt feels like it's lifting off the floor. You need to make sure that your hips stay down. So push your tailbone down into the mat as you go through knee extensions here. You just got 10 seconds. We're going to take it to a chair squat. So real quick, I just want you to pay in mind how your back feels right now, because this is how your spine, last one here, needs to be right now when we go into the chair squat. So you notice how flat it was with the traction of the floor there. That was nice. You don't have the assistance anymore, but you're going to be going through a flat spine, neutral spine, as you go through some squats. Hold your arms just as they were in that dead bug position. The goal is to find yourself in the bottom of the squat and have it look much like how a dead bug would look. Now, it's really difficult to do. The length relationships across the entire spine, all those muscles, all those length relationships really need to be quite amazing to find yourself in the bottom of a squat looking like a dead bug. But we are all working towards that. So wherever you are in that pursuit, in that endeavor to find yourself pretty close to this, doesn't matter. Just keep working towards sitting back, stretching through the back of the hips, strengthening through the abs, the front of the body by drawing the abs in, shoulders back. Make sure your head stays back. You got just 5 seconds here. And then just a hinge at the hips. Last squat. You got it. Not just a hinge at the hips. So keep your knees nice and straight. I don't want a knee bend. Hands just at your sides. You are just simply hinging. There's no weight. Now, when you hinge, I don't want you pile driving the weight back into the heels of the foot here. So really focusing on the middle inner thigh, as well as the quadriceps right now. And you can see my weight's not way back in my heels. I'm not pile driving all the way into the back of the foot, driving my hips way back. I'm actually trying to emphasize a little more of the contraction through the middle and the front of the body on this one. So that's why my legs are more perpendicular, and that's how I want your legs. I'm pushing a lot of weight through the front or through the ball of the foot, even though my heel is on the floor. So I'm pushing really quite hard down on that toe. What that'll do is it'll eccentrically stretch the back of the leg, actually stretching and hopefully releasing some of this tension that you otherwise feel. So try to stay a little more forward on the foot here and push down really hard on that big toe. And see if you can sense just a little less tension perhaps in the back of the leg than if you were way back in the heel of the foot. So just see if you can notice that, how things feel maybe like a little less tense by having more of the weight through the front of the foot here. Let's do one more here. Last little hinge. And then on our back again, we're just going to give you a nice little bear hug hold. Again, not the hardest series in the universe, although this is not the easiest either, but I'm just emphasizing the hips, the low back, the back of the legs. We want to continue to emphasize our mobility through that region of the body. So as we're here right now, I want you to squeeze your shoulders back and down. You can see how I'm holding my hands to my knees. Now I'm applying a slight internal rotation of that femur joint. You can as well. So as I'm grabbing my knee, I'm trying to turn internally slightly. That'll further release the back of the hip just a little bit. You don't have to be overly aggressive with it. Don't take it to where it feels pinchy or some sort of sharp kind of acute pain. You don't want that. It should feel like a stretch. Hopefully you feel this in the back, the low back, and the back of the hips. If you don't, just maybe shift around just a little bit, see if you can start to feel some of those muscles back there releasing. But that's kind of the targeted area, while you will stretch through the mid-spine, even into the neck and shoulders if you get really good traction through the whole spine. Once again, the emphasis is on those hips. So go come out of that. So find yourself once again in that dead bug position and then just knee extension. So as we go through a second round here, again, not the hardest exercise in the world. The resistance in this is simply whatever resistance you have through the back of the hips and the back of the legs. That's actually where the difficulty in a lot of these beginning exercises come from. It's just your own self-resistance. So continue to reduce your self-resistance by pulling down on those kneecaps to tighten those quads, because that just autogenic inhibition releases the back of the legs. What I mean is the tighter, the stronger you feel through the front of the leg, the less tension and the more release you're going to feel through the back of the leg. That's why I give you that cue. I want you to tight quadricep muscle. So as you're going here, really focus on pulling down those kneecaps. Get this muscle stronger. You want a strong quadricep muscle. Not only does it support the knee joint, once again, it releases the back of the leg there. That is the biggest tell, and that is what we're after is releasing tension through here, through building strength through here. Hopefully that makes sense. Let's do some chair squats. We're on our feet. Once again, track your spine as you just saw it, or as you felt it on the floor. And then we're going to go through a full range of motion. So try to squat, with a reasonable pace. Sometimes I'm going a little slower here as I'm just getting quite chatty, and that's okay. But I do want you to continue to move kind of at a pace as so. So maybe a 1 or 2 count down, 1 or 2 count up. Focus on feeling the sensations of the muscles through the hips stretch as you lower down. Feel those same muscles contract and tighten as you come up, because that's really what it should feel through the back of the hips here, the back, the low back. Even as you're squatting down, you should actually feel a stretch occurring. If it's not, that's fine, but just try to tune into that. Feeling these muscles lengthen. They're not releasing per se because you have a lot of tension. You're holding yourself, but they are stretching under tension. So see if you can tune into the stretching through the back of the hips, the low back, as you sink into that squat, and then squeeze the glutes and feel the shortening of those same muscles. Draw the abs and feel the shortening and contraction of the pelvic floor muscles as you stand up. Let's do one more here. And then hinge the hips. So hands just at the sides is perfectly fine. As you hinge forward, again, you are hinging forward, and it's just at that hip joint. So I do want you really emphasizing the medial chain here. This is this inner thigh. Think of a line happening of tension on the inside of the foot, up the leg, up the inner thigh, towards the groin. Try to feel tension released through the lateral chain of the body as you're hinging more forward. Again, de-emphasizing posterior and lateral, trying to emphasize the strength of the medial and internal muscles as we hinge forward here right now. So really just focus on the contraction of the inner thigh. Feel the quad muscles nice and tight as you pull up on those kneecaps, and hopefully that'll help you to release the back of the hip while keeping nice and flat. Again, you want to stay forward on your hinge right now. We got 20 more seconds here. Just keep hinging. Like I was saying, I'm going kind of slow here. I'm being pretty explicit with some of these directions, so it's pulling me out of the reps. But continue to move at about that 1 to 2 count pace. We're going to do that bear hug here now. So go ahead on your back. This is actually really a nice complement to just a hinge at the hips, just in general, simply because it will release, again, those low back muscles. Now, again, pulling the knees into those shoulders, draw those abs way in. You can try to create that slight internal rotation, if you will, through the knee joint. So again, slight turning in, but try to tilt the pelvis too as you pull the knees into the shoulders. Again, that'll further just flatten that low back here. And let's consider the head and neck right now. So I want you to just pull the shoulders down and then reach the crown of the head towards the wall behind you. Keep pulling the abs in. Just really pull the abs in. Really, really, really pull the abs in. Now squeeze your shoulder blades together. We're just going to hold here for about another 10 seconds. Now we got to grab some dumbbells. We'll be on our feet. Just keep compressing in. Pull the knees in. Make sure that low back stays nice and flat. Go ahead, release that. Hop 2 on your feet. Grab your dumbbells in hands. We're going to be hinging at the hips with the dumbbells at the sides. So hinging like we were just doing, but now one leg. So a little more intensity, a little bit more difficulty. I do want you pointing your toe here. Your hands are going to be at your sides, and you are simply hinging up and down. Always stay on that left side. I'll show you a profile here, and we are beginning. So again, always on that left leg, just up and down. So try to, again, not hold. You don't have to hold for too particularly long, but you get to that end range of motion. Your knee is nice and straight. You feel strong at that knee joint. You feel your hips nice and square. That back toe is pointed. You are as low as you can go while staying square. This is a full range of motion. If you're not here, if you look something more like this, that's totally fine, okay? Your hips have to stretch more. They have to release more. They also have to be quite a bit stronger to deal with this increased range of motion. That's actually where the intensity comes from. It's being able to stabilize, increase length relationships as you go further and further in range. It makes the exercise much, much more intensity. And obviously that's intuitively understood. This is harder to hold than this is. So you need to find a position that you can find good form, where you're in good position through your hips and spine, shoulders, etc., pointing the back toe, keeping the legs nice and straight. You need to find that range of motion that's intense, but you're still able to maintain that good form. Whether you look like this or like this, I don't care. Again, it's the form wherever you are. Wherever you are. To the other side, same thing. So now starting on the right side. So again, we'll get that full minute. You don't have to hold the finished position for really too long. Make sure you're pointing that back toe. I do want you to feel the whole foot grip the floor as you're doing this. So your weight should not be entirely on the outside of the foot. Oftentimes, as people describe, they're doing hinging exercises. We're doing a hinging exercise, a balance hinging exercise. all the way falls to the outside of the foot. I need you to resist that. That's you disengaging the medial chain muscles, and you got a lot of strength running down from your hips, from the inside of the leg all the way down to the foot. So let's engage those muscles the best you can. Try not to let the foot roll open. You got just 10 seconds here, so we'll do a couple more good reps. Keep those knees nice and straight. Make sure you're really pulling the abs in, pointing those back toes. Let's do one more good one here. And then we got a little standing exercise. So we'll be on that left leg down, bring your right knee up, and then bring your left arm up. So a couple things I want you to think of here, because we are doing a little balance series, obviously. So right now, my right knee is up, your right knee is up. Two things you're focusing on. I want you to straighten your left knee. Straighten your left knee. I know it feels straight, but I need you to straighten it. So pull up on that left knee cap. And now do with me, I want you to straighten your left elbow. As you straighten your left elbow, I want you to bring your arm a little closer to the side of your head. Can you get your bicep to touch your ear without bending your elbow? It's crazy, but it is possible. Get your shoulder down. Can you get your bicep to your ear? Straighten your elbow. Now, how about your knee? Yeah? Is that knee straight? Straighten your knee. As you straighten your left knee, I want you to push down harder on that left toe. Don't forget about that elbow. Now, you got a lot of joints between the elbows and knees, but the point is this is hard enough to even just pay mind to two joints, let alone the entire kind of chain between the two. We'll do the same thing on the other side. Left leg up, left knee up. Bring your right arm up. So again, now straightening the right knee. Your weight is evenly on that right foot, toes facing forward. Again, right knee nice and straight, so you're pulling up on your right kneecap. You can feel that quadricep muscle super tight. Working up the chain, just pull your abs in, squeeze your glutes too with that straight knee. But really the focus right now is on your knee. Let's get to that elbow. So I want you to straighten your right elbow right now. Don't forget the knee. Keep your elbow straight. Now pull your arm back and try to get your arm right to the side of your head. Keep your wrist straight too. Just keep straightening the knee. Now this knee, this left knee, got to lift it up just a little higher because it's probably bending. Push the knee back again. Push the knee back. Now squeeze the glute as you draw the abs in. You just got 5 seconds here. And then we get to hinge again. Go ahead, release that. Okay, hands at the sides. Let's go ahead, hinge. Left foot down here first. Again, we're not holding, so this is a little easier. Once we're going through range of motion. If I asked you to hold this for 60 seconds, you'd probably be crying. So that's okay. We're not crying. That's probably a good thing. But we are hinging. And we are trying to hinge with that really nice form. So keep those hips nice and square as you hinge forward here. We're not opening the hip. I do see that a lot. So when the hip opens as someone hinges forward, the weight goes on the outside of the foot. And we just discussed that. We want the weight evenly distributed through the foot. So as you rotate that hip square, it's much more easy to get an equal dispersion of weight across the foot, if you will. So just focus on square hips because it does have an effect on that foot joint, on that foot, and how we're loading the foot. And how you load the foot also affects how you engage muscles up the chain. So again, it's all just interconnected. And again, just focusing really on good form, good control of your body, good control of the movements. Let's do the other side here. It's kind of mastery of self, if you will. Point the back toe, straighten the knees. That's good. Just keep drawing the abs in. You should really feel a tremendous stretch through the back of the leg when you are getting into the hinge. If it doesn't feel like that, that's fine. If it's pain, you're probably going too far. Don't take any exercise to pain. Even exercises that you feel you should be able to do well, and they're just more difficult than they should be, please don't force it because you feel like you should be better at it, or you watch someone that is seemingly better at it and you feel like you should be right there with them. Don't worry about that. Just listen to yourself. Go to where your body says is appropriate. And then challenge that. Let's do one more here. I'm going to do those balance. Stand on your left leg right now. Now bring your right knee up and then bring your right arm up. Once again, we're going to be focusing on the elbow joint and the knee joint. Could focus on a lot of other things, but again, knee. So push that left knee back. I know that left knee feels straight, but as you push that left knee back, I want you to feel the quadricep muscle. So pull up on that kneecap. That'll further help to stabilize the knee joint. That's a good thing. It'll help to keep your knee nice and straight. But with that knee back right now, straighten that left arm. Pull the left arm back. Make sure the wrist is staying nice and straight. Straighten that left elbow, even a little more. Now pull the arm back again. Make sure the shoulder is sitting nice and tight. You got 15 seconds here, you're fine. Keep pulling the arm back. Now with the right knee, because it's falling a little bit, I want you to lift that right knee a little higher. You can do that. As you lifted your right knee a little higher, your left knee likely bent. Straighten the left knee. Now straighten your left elbow, and then lift that right knee a little higher. So this same thing on the other side. Nice job. So bring that left knee up now nice and high. Bring that right arm up nice and high. Your right leg is nice and straight. Elbow is straight. Right knee is straight. Left knee is up. You're keeping your left knee up. You're keeping your abs drawn in. You're trying to keep your hips level, best that you can with this anyway. Engaging the inner thigh and pulling up on that kneecap will help with keeping the hips level. So try to think about that. Push down really hard on your big toe right now. You got 20 seconds yet. This might start to feel like a forever minute. You're fine. Squeeze your glutes, pull your abs in. With your arms right now, I want you to draw them back just a little bit. Straighten the elbows. Really straighten the elbows. Pull the arms back just a little bit more. We're going to go 10 more seconds here. Abs in, squeeze the glutes. Elbows and knees. Just hang out here. We're almost finished. You got it. Go ahead, set that dumbbell down. Nice and done. We are going to take us to a V-sit. We're going to jump right into that though. You do not need your dumbbells unless you really want to hold dumbbells. So in your V-sit position, I'm going to demonstrate this with my feet down. If you want to do this with your feet up, great, perfectly fine. Obviously I'm face on. You can tell that I'm kind of reclining my spine here right now, and that's what I want you to do as well. So we're trying to create like a V position. If you think this is your back, and these are your femurs, and then this is your hips, you're trying to create a V, hence V-sit. So as you do your V-sit here, what you want to make sure that you're not doing, and I do see a fair amount of this when people hold V-sits, is that the lumbar itself actually collapses, and you don't want that. Now we are trying to obviously strengthen the core muscles, the abdominal muscles, even get a mild strengthening of the hip flexor, that psoas muscle. To do that properly, you need to make sure that the spine stays extended and you don't go into flexion collapse. So there is that mild extension through the spine. So the muscles are actually stretched, but they are contracted under a stretched position. So the spine is mildly stretched here. It's not so much here, at least the muscles that we're trying to engage. They're being stretched here. So hold and contract these mildly stretched muscles through the lumbar, pull the abs in, feel that diaphragmatic tension. So the abdominals move towards the spine, creating that lift all the way up to the sternum. Again, you have that slight reclined back position. And just hang out here. You got just 10 seconds. You should really feel this through the front of the hips. You should really feel this through the abdominals if you're holding that spine correctly. All right, go ahead, let that go. Sit now forward on your sit bones. So we're going to do a seated forward fold. So it kind of depends on how mobile you are with your hamstrings here. Goal is to touch the feet, shoulders down, and extend the spine. So you can see I'm actually trying to create a V with my femurs and my spine. Difference is instead of being reclined with bent knees, I'm now forward. If you need to do this with bent knees, please do so. But the goal is to get yourself in a forward fold or creating that V position, if you will, with the femur, with the spine. So you can grab your feet. You would rather grab the outside of the foot, not the top of the foot or the inside of the foot. Grab the outside of the foot. What you want to do is pull your feet towards your hips via pulling of the shoulders down. So contract the shoulder blades, squeezing down and back as you draw the abs in to create that extension through the spine, because we're not rounding the spine. It's like the V-sit. You're not here with your back. You are mildly extended with your back. And then you are going to pull into that extension using the strength of the back of the arms, and the back of the shoulder blades. Draw your abs in. Make sure your legs are not going wide. So again, the full form will look something like this as you come forward. You are sitting forward on those sit bones. The legs would be nice and straight. The back is flat. So I'm not flexing to pull. This is a different stretch. It's a different activity. Your back is extended as you're coming forward. All right, enough of that. We are going to complement it with a rabbit. So this is actually opposite of what we're trying to do with the spine. There you were trying to extend it with forward with hip flexion. Now we are going to try to flex the spine with hip flexion. So as you go into the rabbit here, again, I'm doing this with my heels together. Obviously, my butt is off my heels. That's fine. But the goal here is to flex and round over the entire spine. Just let your head drop. Let your shoulders kind of relax and fall open. They're not coming up to the ears, though. But again, you want to be broad through the upper back. If you have a little more range of motion, and your knees tolerate, your ankles tolerate it, you can certainly drive the forehead to the knee and then push yourself up, just further releasing and stretching through all those backside muscles of the body. So that's what's happening in this.
We're just gonna go about 10 more seconds here. And we'll do that second round, starting with that V-sit again. And go ahead, release that. So find yourself in the V-sit position. Once again, a full minute here. So I'll show you from the side profile. Again, I'm doing this with the knees bent. So your knees could look like this when we do that forward fold stretch in a second. The whole idea of that next stretch that we're going to do is to release a lot of the tension that we're holding right now. Those same muscles are in a very contracted state, so the goal in the next minute would be to release all of this tension. So as we hang out here, draw the abs in, really draw the abs in, and make sure that low back is not collapsing. So it should feel like you're trying to create a lift as you're reclining your spine backwards. Now I'm on the back half of my sit bones. I'm not forward on my sit bones. You will be forward on your sit bones in 20 seconds. Keep drawing your abs in. Keep trying to create that lift as you hold. You should feel quite a bit of tension through the upper inner thigh, the front of the hips, and the abdominal muscle. Quite a bit. Even the low back just a little bit. Should be kind of talking to you a little bit as it's contracting pretty intensely to hold your spine in this position. Since the fulcrum is here at the hips, and these muscles do have to take on quite a bit of stress to hold you in this position. Let's go come out of that. So that forward fold position. So we're here, and the goal would be eventually to have a nice, perfectly straight leg. Your legs would be forward in their lanes. I'm not rounding through my spine. I am extending through my spine as I flex from the hip. So we're doing hip flexion. This is hip flexion, but we're not doing spine flexion. This is spine flexion. You want to think about having an extended spine as we go into hip flexion. Okay, now your range of motion might be severely limited because this is a challenging stretch to get into. It's challenging because you have to release all of this while, in a sense, contract your back muscles so that you don't go into flexion as we come forward. Because your shoulders aren't here as you're pulling. Your shoulders are down and back as you pull forward. And just hang out here. You got about another 10 seconds, and then we'll do that rabbit. By the way, if you want to squeeze your glutes real quick, you'll notice your hamstrings just relax. So try that with me. Squeeze your butt. Squeeze your butt. You just notice that hamstring tension went away a little bit. That's autogenic inhibition. It's crazy, but it's how the nervous system works. Let's come out of that and let's do the rabbit. So you can play around with that in the future if you're ever in that position again. Try squeezing your butt because it's a good trick to turning off tension in the back of the leg. And if you suffer from too much tension in the back of the leg, then there's a cue for yourself. Squeeze your butt more often. You do release those hamstrings. It's subtle. It's not a lot, but it is something. And if you do it enough, it adds up. So it's kind of like exercise. You do enough of it, you get better at it. Anyway, find wherever you are in rabbit. Round that spine over. Get that full flexion. You can move your hips around just a little bit if you will. If that feels good, that's fine. You go about another 5 seconds here. I'm going to come out of it. You just finish your rabbit. And then let's grab our dumbbells. We're going to jump 2 on our feet here real quick. We just have some alternating forward lunges, hands at sides. Let's just jump right into it. Again, just pushing through the heel of that front foot, staying nice and upright. Again, bending the back knee, bending the front knee. Try to find yourself at about 90 degrees with the hips, at least that front hip, and then the knees at the bottom of the lunge. So 90, 90, 90. 90 on both the knees, 90 on that front hip. Try to stay just nice and upright. You think of it as sliding your back down a wall. I mean, I know you are stepping forward in a lunge, but you are sinking through the hips. There's a wall right behind you. Once you step forward, and you have to just sink down that wall. The back does anyway, as you slide down into the lunge. We'll go just 10 more seconds here. Then we're going to bring our hands up to our shoulders. And you have those dumbbells in your hands. But we'll be doing some sumo squats here. Let's do one more lunge. Last one, you got it. Sumo squat, so really wide, almost uncomfortably wide between the feet. We're abducting, we're externally rotating, everything is going out. Bring your arms up into that extended position, the shoulders. Stay back with the arms, and then just push the knees out as we go into the squat. As you go into the squat, try to keep your hips in a neutral position. So with your hips this wide, or with your legs this wide, your hips are really likely to want to tilt forward. I'm going to exaggerate this, but as you squat down here, your hips are really going to want to do this. And again, that's because of how wide the legs are. So just be mindful that your back does not arch like that. So really focusing on neutral pelvic position, tuning into what this is doing as you are going into the squat. Neutral back, and then engage the glutes.
get that glute max muscle really firing because your back's in a neutral position, and that'll get you out of that squat. So what I'm saying is you should feel your butt flex. You should feel your glutes contract, intensely contract. You'll also notice when your glutes intensely contract, they actually help to push the knees out slightly. You'll notice that sensation. So just as, because where the glutes attach, they attach to the backside of the femur. As that muscle flexes, pulls on the femur out externally. So that's probably what you're feeling here. Let's go back to the lunges. Hands at sides, alternating forward steps. Again, pushing through the heel of that front foot, staying nice and upright. I will acknowledge this one's a little harder to feel the glute fire, but it is possible too. It's possible to feel the glute fire from this bottom position, pushing back. So see if you can sense that. And again, that's difficult because your glute is actually technically stretched in the bottom of this position, and it's hard to feel a muscle flex when it's in a stretched position. Consider this. When I ask you to do a bicep curl, it's much easier to feel your bicep here than it is here. If I ask you to flex your bicep here, it's like I can kind of feel it, but not really. I can really feel it here. It's the same function that's happening with your glute. So you can feel your glute. It's like your bicep in this position. So try to see if you can flex it, because you can feel it here. I guarantee you're going to feel it when you're up here or in a range of motion, say with a backward lunge or a hinge or really any other exercise that we do. So just tune into those glutes once they're in that stretched position at the bottom of the lunge. Let's do one more here. We'll do the sumo squats. Bring your hands up at the shoulders, nice and wide on the feet, sinking into those hips, neutral hip position. Push your knees out. Pushing your knees out will further help you to engage the glutes. Engage the glutes to push the knees out, and push the knees out to engage the glutes. But don't do it at the cost of losing the lumbar spine. And again, that's why I addressed that first off the bat. Well, yeah, I do want you to engage glutes, and well, yeah, I do want you to push your knees out. I don't want you to do it if this is occurring. Okay, so if you just squeezing your glutes more is causing you to do this, or you just pushing your knees out more is just causing you to do this, you're not actually getting the range that we want through the adductor or the front of the hips. So shallow your range of motion so that as you push your knees out, you're not losing the lower back. That is the most critical thing here. You have one more squat. Whoa, one more squat. And then L-sit position, shoulder press. So we're on our butt here, easy transition. Sit forward, sit nice and light on those sit bones. Again, still kind of addressing through the hips with this seated position, but then working up the kinetic chain with our shoulder presses. So you've obviously begun with me. If you need to bend the knees a little more to do this, that's fine. By the way, you are doing this with dumbbells, but I have to acknowledge this is a tough mechanical position to get in for a lot of people, just sitting like this, because the hips are tight, the legs are tight. So adding any sort of arm movement above the head can be a really, really, really big challenge. And so I acknowledge that. And if that's you, just drop the weights, bend your knees a little more. I still want you to do the arm movement. Keep doing the arm movement, but do them with just your arms and just focus on the range of motion. Focus on the sensations, focus on the movement, because this will release tension given time, and then you'll be able to apply that weight with that perfect range of motion, with that perfect form. So again, we are working towards something that looks like this eventually. If you're not here, that's fine. Just keep working on it. And if you've been working on this stuff with me for a while, I'm sure you're vastly better than you were at it, say 6 months or a year ago. And that's the point. You do get better at it. Just be consistent with it. As annoying as even these types of movements are, they're really quite good for you. We're going to be on our feet here, holding a hinge position, because again, we're still kind of focusing on the stretching of the hips here today. So your body is in the same position as ideally as it was, just in the L sit. So holding those same muscles in a stretched position against gravity, but now moving into our arms and shoulder extension. With the press, you're doing a little more flexion of the shoulder joint. Now we're doing the extension of the shoulder joint, but I still want you to hold your hips in the same mechanics as they were. So you were in that L-sit position, which, obviously 90 degrees at the hips, and here right now, 90 degrees at the hips. So see if you can maintain that same form, but just a slightly different arm movement. Now, as you're holding this position, your legs are nice and straight. You'll notice my weight's not all the way back in the heels. So my weight is a little more forward on the toe. Maybe not quite as much as forward on the toe as we were earlier in the hour with that other exercise, but I'm definitely feeling the midline muscles of the body pulling up on the kneecaps, trying to straighten the back of the legs to release the back of the legs, but I feel strong at the knee joint. You should feel strong at your knee joint. Don't let it feel precarious. Let's do one more here. And then we got standing shoulder flexion. So just stand nice and tall here for me. Feet 6 inches apart, toes facing forward, draw the abs in, squeeze your glutes, make sure you're standing nice and upright. Perfect shoulder flexion. So as you go into your shoulder flexion here, I do not want you to bend your elbows. We've already addressed that. I do not want you to bend your knees. But because we're just really doing shoulder flexion and we're not really asking you to do much with your hips, super pay attention to the elbow, super pay attention to the shoulder. Your shoulder must sit down and your elbows must remain straight through that full range of motion. You actually mitigate the length that would otherwise occur here when you bend your elbow. You can feel that. If you straighten your elbow, you notice that this just got a little more intense. And that's okay. No, don't take it to pain, but that's the idea of trying to release your lateral rotator cuff. Keep your elbows straight. Okay, that's where that cue comes into play. Because this releasing actually affects how you contract all of this and then the neck. So again, it's the connect chain, and what you do at the elbow can affect so much more. So right now, just please keep your elbows nice and straight as they flex up. Keep your wrists straight. Don't bend your knees. Pull your abs in. But keep straightening those elbows. Just straight up. And everyone's favorite, prone extension. So this is the opposite of that movement. If we were just in a flexion, now you're going to do an extension. So everything up. Yes, you are using your dumbbells. Up and down. So full extension, hold for a second or so, and then back down. Keep your legs together, point your toes. Try to lift as high as you can. Hold for a second or so, back down. Your heels should not separate on this. Likewise, your inner thighs should feel glued together. Likely, as you lift up, it probably feels like everything wants to fling open. And that's okay, that's fine. Probably just means the lateral chain is a little too tight and the medial chain is just a little too weak. So what I need you to do is just squeeze the legs together because that'll correct for that. As hard as that is, as irritating as it is, keeping your legs together on the lift, please do that. It'll correct for tight hips, tight hamstrings, tight legs, in time. In time. Maybe not today, maybe not next week. But if you're consistent, give it a couple months. You'll get there. Keep lifting. You got 10 seconds. Nice and high. Really focus on squeezing the shoulder blades and then lift the arms. Let's do one more here. And then it looks like we'll be back on our feet. Squeeze. You got it. All right. I'll sit shoulder press. Never mind. Easy transition now. I'll show you side profile. Once again, sitting forward, sitting nice and light on those sit bones. Keep your arms, or keep the wrists nice and straight on the shoulder presses. Try to sit forward as much as you can. Don't let the low back flex. Okay, you need to keep that entire spine in that extended, lengthened, lifted position. So hold that lifted position and then get into the shoulder press. If this is just work, by the way, just holding this, that's fine. You can just, with your dumbbells or even with your arms, just try to hold this position. Because if you feel so much tension through the hips, that it's just like all the effort in the world just to get in and hold this position, and that's you, that's fine. This is still mechanically quite good for you. Even if it is difficult to hold, you are holding a stretched position. You're stretching your hips in this position. Even me, like I don't really feel tension here, back of the legs and the hips, but doesn't mean they're not stretching. They are stretching. My brain doesn't say, whoa, this is overwhelming. That's the difference. But the muscles are still stretching. And that's what we're trying to improve with you. So your brain's not like, oh my God, why are you having me sit like this? You should say, it's fine. You can sit like this. No big deal. Let's hop to our feet. Hold the hinge position. Shoulder extension. So your back nice and flat. Squeeze the inner thighs together, please. Make sure your knees are nice and straight, but you're strong at that knee joint. Again, your back is flat. Every time I'm lifting my arms here, I'm pulling my abs in. I'm trying to sync them together so that when my arms are all the way up, my abs are all the way in. See if you can coordinate those two things together. Again, just keep the legs nice and straight, but stay forward. So we're not all the way back in the foot. An even distribution of weight load through the feet here. Looks like shoulder flexion is next, so we will get to stand up. But I want you to squeeze your glutes right now. As you squeeze your glutes, you just release the back of the legs a little bit. I know you could feel that with those hamstrings. That tension you were feeling just got a little softer because you squeezed those glutes. So keep squeezing the glutes and then squeeze the upper inner thighs together with those glutes squeezed. You'll just notice the hamstrings released a little more, and that's the point. So squeeze the inner thighs, squeeze the glutes, try to relax those hamstrings. You got one more here. That's nice. Stand nice and tall. Okay, just relax the legs for a second, but then we want to get tension again in those legs. Standing tall, Pull the abs way in, straight arms up. Please don't bend the elbow joint. Try to keep the arms as narrow as possible as they graze the sides of the head here. So we're not here, okay? Now again, you might not have the same shoulder mobility that I have, and that's fine. But keep working through that range of motion. This range of motion, this way, not this way, the best that you can. Try not to bend the elbows. Try not to bend the wrists. Just do your best. Squeeze the inner thighs together, squeeze glutes. Pull up on the kneecaps. Why? Because let's create that lift through the spine. Even though we're working our shoulders, head, neck a little bit here, arms a little bit here, why not still maintain that lift through the lower part of the spine? So again, tight quad muscles, squeeze your glutes, pull your abs in. Creates that lift. Try not to bend those elbows. We have 10 seconds here, and then we get to do those prone extensions. Arguably some of the best exercises for you. Let's do one more. And here we go. Hop down.
Yes, you can keep your dumbbells in your hand. If this is too hard, the dumbbells, drop them, please. But otherwise, hold on to those three. Squeeze your legs together. Lift, and then back down. You try to get the entire spine to extend here, so it's not all the low back. Where I'm lifting from is actually a lot of thoracic. I'm getting most of my mobility through the mid-thoracic. And what helps with that is squeezing the shoulder blades back and down. As these muscles squeeze, they will help to extend the spine. And that's what we're after here. Get that full extension of the spine, not just the lumbar. But again, get into that thoracic extension. So much of head, neck, shoulders, the mobility, the function, the health has to do with your T-spine, that thoracic spine. And that's why I think these extension exercises, as irritating, as difficult, as annoying, as challenging as they are seriously amazing for your back because they work on that thoracic spine. So bear with it, stick with it, grit through it, get through it. Keep lifting here. Do two more. And then last one. Really lift, squeeze those legs too. On the lift, squeeze. You got it. Nice job. All right, set those dumbbells down. Flip over onto your back. That's actually pretty intense on the spine. I think you'll appreciate this one. I want you to bring your left knee to your left shoulder. Bring your right arm back. So we're just going to hang out here. We're going to decompress the spine. By the way, you're not cranking all that hard. I just want you to hold. Okay? Hold with a little bit of tension. Now try to keep your hips square. So you'll notice as you hold this left knee up, your left hip's going to want to cant up. So just mildly push the left hip down. Push it down away from this like left shoulder. As you pull the left knee towards that left shoulder, just again, keep pushing that hip down. Now you are trying to get this right leg nice and straight right now. Neutral position. The foot, you're going to hold neutral. You're not going to let the foot flop open. Do the same thing on the right arm, the right side of the body. And I want you to feel the back of your hips, both of your hips on the floor. Now, you probably don't feel total contact of your low back on the floor, but that is the goal. You would feel with this arm stretched, with this leg up and this leg extended, your entire spine still sitting flush to the floor. If that's not you, that is fine. I just want you to continue to relax the muscles in the low back. Take some nice deep breaths. Just try to release tension along the spine, but all the while maintaining straight leg and straight arm. It's tough to do, but let's go ahead and do the other side. You'll be fine. Again, so now straightening the left leg as you pull the right knee in. As you pull your right knee in, I want you to make sure you push your right hip down. So again, the right hip that way, towards the wall away from you. And then obviously as you bring your left arm back, try to keep the arm nice and straight. And again, you want to have that whole back nice and flat. Eventually this leg even will sit flat to the floor. You'll even get the hamstring, you'll get the calf muscle, that'll just totally sit flush. People are oftentimes amazed by that, but yes, that is your lumbar, that is the back of the hips, those muscles releasing, allowing the leg to actually drop. It's what allows the arm to drop and the arm to stay straight. The releasing of tension through the upper back is lets the arm fall. Releasing tension through the low back lets the leg fall. So things to look out for, things to look forward to as your body improves its own mechanics. Let's do an alternating quadruped. So focusing on really good mechanics here with this, because again, this is not the most intense exercise in the world. It doesn't matter though. But biomechanically, this is quite a fantastic exercise, particularly through alignment of the shoulders, hips, and neutral spine. So focus on those neutral shoulders and hips.
making sure not to arch the low back, rotate the shoulders as we're extending an opposite arm and leg. You'll notice when the arm lifts, it's not fully parallel with the back. So I need you to lift the arm a little higher. As you lifted your arm a little higher, you noticed your elbow bent and your shoulder opened. I need you to resist all those things. So as that arm lifts, you're going to push the shoulder down as the arm lifts. As the arm lifts, your elbow's going to bend. You're going to straighten the elbow. You're going to keep the wrist nice and straight too, and then you're really going to lift and not rotate open. That's the difficulty with this. That's the trick in this, is really pushing through that last 10% and then holding that stretched, eccentric stretch position for the shoulder. Let's do one more on each side here. And then do it again. Because I'm going to be nice. Let's do it again. So again, just lie on your back, release the tension through the low back. Start with your left hand and your left knee. Straighten your right arm, straighten your right leg. Just, again, get the arm as close as you can to the side of the head, as close as you can. Make sure that foot is nice in a neutral position too. And the leg is square. So again, the leg is not externally rotating, it's not flopping open. So you can reach through the heel. That's certainly fine. And then again, right arm nice and straight, arm right along the side of the face, or right by the ear, bicep even perhaps touching the ear, the elbow nice and straight. Pulling the abs way in. Let's go ahead and do the other side here, a little quicker than a minute, that's okay. Pull the knee on that right side, now into the right shoulder, straightening out the left side of the body. Try to keep the shoulders nice and square too. So obviously you don't have someone looking over you and you probably don't have a mirror on your ceiling, but if you were to look down on yourself, you would have square shoulders, you would have square hips. That's what we want. So push your left hip towards the left, or the right hip, towards that left foot as you pull the right knee into the right shoulder. As you pull your right knee into the right shoulder, just drop your shoulder down just a little more. And why not? Let's drop that left shoulder and then straighten that left elbow. You got it. Go ahead, let that go. Let's do that quadruped. I'll show you face on. Again, alternate your sides. So it's opposite. So left arm or right arm, left leg. Really open that shoulder joint. Try not to arch the low back. So when you really go into the pointing of the toe and straightening of that leg because you're tightening that knee by pulling up on the kneecap, your low back is probably going to arch just a little bit. You'll notice that it's going to want to arch just a little bit. So do your best to resist that by pulling in of the abs. So really do that. Now, as you lift the arm, likewise, your elbow's going to want to bend a little bit. So as you lift the arm, focus on straightening that elbow joint. Let's do one more on each side here. And then standing. Good. Last one here. You got it. Grab your dumbbells here. I'm going to do a little internally rotated standing shoulder press. So we're going to be working through the back of the rotator cuff, palms facing you. So start here. Notice equidistance between the forearms, 6 inches, 8 inches or so. And keeping that same 6, 8 inches as you work through an internally rotated shoulder press. So my elbows never flare as I am pressing up here. My palms never turn either. They're always facing me. Now your range of motion might be pretty shallow on this if you're doing this correctly, meaning not letting the elbows separate. Okay, if you're making sure that the elbows stay equidistant as the inside of the wrists or the hands, then you are doing this properly. But again, your range of motion might be quite shallow on this. It's okay. Okay, so you might not be here. You might just be like this because again, the back of the shoulder, which is essentially what has to release and lengthen here, doesn't quite want to. So just do as high as you can with those shoulder presses, as far as you can with the shoulder presses, without letting the elbow flare here. We're going to do 2 more here, and then we're going to do a little eagle stretch, but just for the arm. So what I want you to do is bring your arms up. You can set your dumbbells down if you will. Bring your arms up. So we're going to swing our right arm under our left. Your left arm is the top arm. This is the top arm. The top arm is being stretched. Now this is this full eagle for the arms, for the shoulders. You might have a hard time even seeing what it is that I'm doing. So if that is you, right arm under your left, grab your shoulders, pull your left shoulder down. That's fine. This is also eagle. Quite literally, this is also eagle. So if this is where your shoulder mobility is, totally fine. Give yourself a bear hug. Your right arm is under your left elbow. Your left arm is stretched. You can remember this by top arm is stretched arm. Okay, so if you're here, great. If you are here, because you have that extra range of motion, elbow, but then are able to squeeze around, fine, still pull down. So the same thing on the other side. Release those arms. Left arm is going underneath right arm. Left arm, left one, underneath right arm. You can grab the elbows or grab the shoulder joints and then simply pull down. Again, stretching the right arm because the right arm is the top arm. If you have more range of motion, great, still pull down. You want to keep the shoulders as square as possible. So you can see here from the back, I'm really getting a tremendous stretch through the upper back by doing this eagle. I have obviously the double bind. If I have just a single bind, I'm still getting a tremendous stretch. No, it's not of the same intensity, but it's really close. So wherever you are, totally fine. Whether you're here or you're here, cool, go ahead, let that go. Bring your arms all the way up. We're gonna be doing half moon. So just side to side, clasp your hands, okay? You can interlock your fingers, reach your arms up. This is one of the few exceptions where I'm gonna ask you to protract your elbows up, so lift them up as high as you can, then pull your abs in. And then just tip side to side, that's it. So your arms are not going to leave the sides of your head. If you're going so far that this is happening, you have done too much lateral flexion. Seriously, we're trying to stretch the upper back here right now through the lateral upper rotator cuff. So I need you to lift, pull your abs in, maintain that lift. You feel how lifted you are through the shoulder joint. You feel how tight you are through your head with those biceps right along the sides of the ears. And then you laterally flex, but you don't lose that tension with the arms along the sides of the ears, and you don't lose that lift of the shoulder. If you can do that and go through a greater range of motion, that's great. That's great. That's fine. You're releasing the lateral flanks of the spine and the back of the shoulders. But if you need to shallow your range of motion where it looks like this, it's fine. It's okay. You're obviously pushing your hips to the opposite direction in which you are tipping. We're going to go through this again. So grab your dumbbells real quick. We're going to do those internally rotated shoulder presses, so palms facing you. Again, just really kind of emphasizing it's a unique little shoulder circuit I've never really done before, but really just emphasizing the lateral rotator cuffs, maximizing range of motion mobility through the upper back. So focusing on that right now. Right now, I need you to make sure that the elbows do not separate as you press up. Make sure your shoulders sit down as you press up. And make sure the head sits back. It's not coming forward as you press up. We're going to go 30 more seconds here. You should feel quite a bit of tension even in the bicep muscle and the front of those shoulders. They should be kind of talking to you a little bit. That's totally cool. Make sure the low back's not arching, so you are squeezing the glutes and pulling the abs in. Really important as well. So we're going to go 10 more seconds here, so just keep moving. Make sure we're, again, standing nice and tall as that fatigue sets in at the end. Don't let that happen. Keep those elbows in nice and close. All right, let's do an eagle here. So bring your arms up. Let's stretch the left side, so the right arm is going to be underneath. So again, right arm underneath. The left one is on top, and then you just simply pull down on the shoulder. So again, this is eagle. This works. If you want the double bind, because you can do it, that's great. And still pulling the shoulder down. And if you're doing the double bind, ideally the forearms would essentially sit vertical or perpendicular with the floor. So not like that. It wouldn't look like this. It would look like this. But if you're not there, that's fine. Just give yourself a bear hug. Let's do the other side. So stretching now the right side. So that means the right arm has to be on top. Okay, top arm is the stretched arm when we do an eagle. So it doesn't matter if double bind, single bind, both effective. Again, I still feel a stretch here. I legitimately do. It's not quite as intense here. This might be like a 6 or 5 or something. This might be a 3 or 4, but it's still there. It's still something. So again, wherever you are, totally fine. Just hold that stretch out. We're just going to hold for about 10 more seconds. You are trying to pull the right shoulder down. You're actually trying to pull the shoulder forward. All right, bring your arms up. Let's do those half moons. Again, we're going to go side to side. I don't need you to hold isometrics on this right now. But before we get into it, get your legs together, squeeze your thighs, pull up on the kneecaps, pull the abs in, squeeze the glutes, really pull the abs in. Now lift. Lift as high as you can. Get those shoulders to those ears with those arms right along the sides of the head. By the way, the arms don't come forward. So the arms don't come forward. Please don't let that happen. And again, you must keep your arms glued to the side of your face, to those ears. Push the hips the opposite direction of which you are laterally flexing. So as I'm laterally flexing to the left, I'm pushing my hips to the right and vice versa. Try to keep your wrists straight. Try to keep your elbows straight. So if your elbows are bending excessively, you've probably done too much lateral flexion because you look like this. So come up a little higher so those arms can look like that. I'm going to go just 10 more seconds here. Very good. Okay, and then just body weight here. We do a lunging pulse. This is going to be a good challenging 2 minutes here. So just no dumbbells. I just want you to pulse. So bending at that back knee, 1 minute. Here we go. Again, a pulse should take about a second up. The pulse is small. So every time you pulse, I want you to feel that left glute right now because we are on that left side. So contracting, it's a little mini contraction, but every time you pulse up, see if you can feel that left glute flex. And just pulse up and down. By the way, you are pushing through the toe of that back foot and trying to keep the weight to the heel of that front foot. Just keep pulsing here. Again, bending that back knee. So I don't want to see a straight back knee. Doesn't look like this. Keep pulsing. Doesn't look like this as you're pulsing. Looks like this as you're pulsing. That's much harder. Got an eccentric stretch of the quadricep muscle here. It's much harder to hold this position for a long period of time than with the leg back straight. I know that. You know that. You can feel that. So just do your best here right now. You got 10 seconds, and we're going to immediately transition to the other side. Just immediately. Lucky you, we're only going to go through one time. Since you took some extra time focusing on some hip stuff earlier in the hour. I'm sure you're okay with that, but let's switch here. Right side now. Bending the back knee. Again, pushing through the toe of the back foot and through the heel of the front foot. Should take about a second to go up, down. Pull the abs in. Contract those glutes. This one should burn. Yeah, we want that burn. Let's improve that little muscle endurance. All good stuff for you. Get that lactic acid going, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, just keep hanging out here because you got 30 seconds. You're totally fine. Keep pulsing. I'm going to pulse with you. I'm not going to stop. Just keep up and down, small pulses. It's actually harder to pulse like this than it is just to even hold. So we're going for it. Just keep pulsing because this should be burning by now. Quite a bit. Maybe not unbearable, but it should be burning. Keep pulsing. You got 5 seconds here. Keep pulsing. Keep pulsing. And go ahead, let that go. Go lie flat on your back here. Butterfly your legs for me and hold a shoulder flexed position. So we're just going to finish with this. Let that back relax, the entire back. So as the knees flop open here, I want you to tuck your hips under slightly and then let the knees relax. Why? Because as you tuck those hips under slightly in this position, you're going to feel your low back get a little flatter to the floor. That's what we want. So again, you want to maintain contact with that low back. So pull the abs in, tuck those hips under. Now with the head, I want you to slightly tuck the chin, squeeze your shoulders back and down on this, but then straighten your elbows. So try to squeeze your shoulder blades. And you don't have to have crazy tension, by the way, but just kind of squeeze your shoulder blades back and down. And then with that little mild anchor, try to straighten your arms. And then try to relax your arms. And now relax your upper back. And see how much your arms move from that contracted state to the relaxed state. Relax your low back. Relax your knees. How much does your low back want to arch off the floor? Again, how much do your arms want to change position from holding, good neutral position, to where they want to fall to, a non-neutral, non-stretched position, where your back wants to arch off the floor and the elbows want to start bending and the head wants to lift. You should be able to, with very little effort, hold those mechanics that you were able to pull yourself into. And again, that's another kind of thing that we're working on improving. Those rest-length relationships of our muscles. Just about 20 more seconds here. Just let it go. Relax the low back. Relax the back, the neck. Relax your jaw. As you relax your jaw, relaxes the neck and the back of the shoulders. And just relax the inner thighs, let the knees fall. Just take some nice deep breaths. Inhale through the nose and exhale through the mouth. Relaxes the nervous system, slows the heart rate. And with that, we will call that a day. So once again, thank you for joining me this Wednesday. To be determined on location. I'm not sure Saturday or Sunday. I'm kind of just waiting on weather. I would like to do something. I mean, even if there's a little drizzle, I think that's fine. No lightning, obviously, but to be determined. We'll just kind of figure it out.